When it comes to our children's health, we all expect the absolute best. But what if the system itself is actually holding back progress? Today, we're going to dive into a critical plan for change, one that comes directly from the real-world experiences of families and doctors on the front lines. I mean, the answer seems obvious, doesn't it? Of course we do. It's a resounding yes. We want the best for our kids, especially when it comes to their health. And the foundation of the best care, well, that's always solid, reliable research.
But here's the thing. The reality is a lot more complicated. Right here in Canada, there's a hidden obstacle that's preventing our children from fully benefiting from medical research, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So what is this problem exactly? Well, it has a really powerful name, therapeutic orphans. It sounds dramatic, I know, but it describes a situation that's happening right under our noses.
Okay, so what it means is this. For a ton of medications, we just don't have specific scientific data for children. There's no clear, hard evidence on the right dose, the potential side effects, or even how effective it is for their unique developing bodies. In short, pediatric research is being left behind. And the impact of this is huge. When doctors don't have a clear guide, they're often forced to improvise, to make their best educated guess. Can you imagine? This leaves both them and the families they're trying to help in a state of really deep uncertainty. Now get ready for this because the scale of this problem is just staggering. Up to 80%, 80, of medicines prescribed in Canadian children's hospitals are off-label. That means they're being used without official approval from Health Canada, specifically for kids. This isn't some rare exception. It is the everyday reality. So the big question is, why? Why does this massive data gap even exist? Well, it turns out the main culprit is a bureaucratic system that just isn't fit for purpose anymore and is actively slowing down science. You see, the system at Health Canada is basically one size fits all. So even for studies on common, safe medications, researchers face a literal mountain of paperwork. It's long, it's cumbersome, and it's a major roadblock to progress. And yeah, this has a very real financial cost. On average, a full 20% of a clinical trial's budget is spent just on regulatory fees. Just let that sink in for a second. 1/5 of the funding isn't going towards the actual research, it's being eaten up by paperwork. And beyond just the numbers, the consequences are absolutely heartbreaking. One researcher had to abandon a vital study on bronchiolitis, a really common infection in babies. And the reason? It wasn't because of flawed science. It was simply because the funds ran out, eaten up by the cost of all that paperwork. But enough about the problem, because the good news is a solution already exists. And it's not some crazy, untested idea. It's a common-sense approach that's safe, effective, and already proven to work in other parts of the world. The proposal is actually really simple. For low-risk studies on well-known drugs that are already used in children, researchers should be exempt from the most burdensome and expensive regulatory hurdles. In other words, we need to stop using a sledgehammer to swat a fly. This isn't about creating a loophole, not at all. It's about being smart and efficient by matching the level of oversight to the actual level of risk. Using the right tool for the job. And I really want to be clear on this. This is not about lowering safety standards. Far from it. The solution relies on the super robust protection mechanisms that already exist in our hospitals and universities, like the ethics committees that closely supervise all research. And when you look internationally, it's so clear just how far behind we are. Countries like the United States, the UK, and Australia, they implemented these common sense reforms decades ago. That's an entire generation of research we've fallen behind on. It is way past time for Canada to catch up. So, we've seen the problem, and we have the solution. The question now is, how do we make it a reality? This is where everyone, all of us, have a role to play. So, how do we get this done? By turning personal experience into political action. We need to use our collective stories to show the people in charge that this change isn't just logical, it's urgent. So here's the roadmap. It's about understanding the issue, using our collective voice, and urging our politicians to finally act. Together, we can transform this idea into a new reality for the health of every single child in Canada. Because the ultimate goal here is simple: ensuring our youngest citizens get access to the best possible treatments based on the best possible science as quickly as possible.
We need to get to a place where children receive treatments that are based on science, not on guesswork. The only question left is, how are we going to work together to finally make this promise a reality?